Ah, so following the shadows have led you right back to me. In today's tale, a group of people find out you should never take the old for granted. After all, they've been here a lot longer than we have. The air in Norfolk, England, hung heavy with an eerie stillness as Mr. Bella, the enigmatic old man, prepared for his weekly journey to the local shop. The townsfolk whispered tales of his peculiar habits, his reclusive nature, and a decaying estate he called home. The house itself, nestled within a small farm estate, loomed in the shadows like a relic from a bygone era. Its windows, cracked and stained, revealed nothing of the secrets that lay within. Thickets of overgrown vegetation clawed at the decaying structure, casted long, ominous shadows in the pale moonlight. On this particular day, when the sun had long since dipped below the horizon and darkness wrapped the land in an inky embrace, Mr. Bella embarked on his customary trip to the local store. The townspeople, aware of his routine, paid little attention to the aged figure hobbling down the cobblestone path. The quaint town of Norfolk slept soundly, oblivious to the unseen malevolence that stirred beneath its surface. Only the faint rustle of leaves and a distant howl of a lonely wind dared to break the silence. The night was pregnant with an unsettling anticipation, a prelude to the malevolent force that had chosen this night to reveal itself. Mr. Bella's footsteps echoed through the empty streets as he approached the old store. The flickering lamplights cast grotesque shadows, distorting the familiar surroundings into a spectral landscape. The townsfolk, wrapped in blissful slumber, were oblivious to the ominous air that had settled over the quiet abode. As Mr. Bella pushed open the creaking door of the store, a cold gust of wind swept through, sending a shiver down the spine of the occupants. The dim interior was lit by a solitary bulb that dangled precariously from the ceiling. Shelves lined with dusty products stood like silent sentinels, witnesses to countless mundane transactions. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with tired eyes and a perpetual frown, greeted Mr. Bella with a nod. "Back again, Mr. Bella? Your usual, I presume?" Mr. Bella nodded in return, his pale eyes devoid of emotion. He moved with a deliberate slowness, each step calculated and measured. The townsfolk had long speculated about his age, for he seemed to have walked the earth for an eternity, a relic of a forgotten era. As the shopkeeper gathered Mr. Bella's supplies, the atmosphere inside the store grew tense. A hushed whisper seemed to emanate from the shadows, an otherworldly presence that raised the hairs on the back of everybody's neck. The air crackled with an electric energy, an invisible force that defied reason. Close to the small town in Norfolk, the city of Norwich hosted a yearly event that drew visitors from far and wide, transforming the usually quiet streets into a bustling spectacle. A procession of cars wound its way towards the small town, filled with event-goers eager to experience the rural charm. Among the visitors were a group of boisterous city dwellers from London, their sense of entitlement evident in the way they carried themselves. The small local shop in Norfolk became an unintended pit stop for these urban intruders. Pushing their way to the front of the store, they demanded alcohol, cigarettes and snacks, treating the local storekeeper with disdain. "Hold on there," shouted the storekeeper, his voice breaking the silence that had settled after Mr. Bella's enigmatic entrance. The Londoners, fueled by arrogance, ignored him and attempted to leave without paying. "Watch where you're going, old grandad," one of the thugs sneered as he accidentally bumped into Mr. Bella. To their surprise, he stood still, unmoved like a statue, his intent gaze fixed on them, sending a chill down their spines. "What are you looking at, old man?" one of the thugs jeered, dismissing Mr. Bella's eerie silence as inconsequential. "Insects," whispered Mr. Bella, his voice barely audible but laced with an unsettling undertone. The thugs exchanged bemused glances, unsure of how to interpret the cryptic response. One of the more aggressive thugs approached Mr. Bella, taunting him. "What did you say, old man?" attempting to assert his dominance. He tried to push Mr. Bella, but the frail figure remained unyielding, as if rooted to the spot. "What the?" The thug's sentence was cut short as Mr. Bella swiftly caught his incoming punch. A bone-crunching sound echoed through the silent store as the thug's arm twisted unnaturally, snapped by the iron grip of the seemingly feeble old man. The thug's laughter turned to shock, and panic rippled through their faces. One of them, desperate to save face, pulled out a knife and charged at Mr. Bella. "Now we're going to have a short scare break while you ease your nerves. So while you're waiting, don't forget, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and stab that subscribe button right now. As doing so, you'll really help the professor spread his shadow of evil. Now, let's get back to the story." The blade found its mark, or so it seemed, as the old man's stomach should have yielded the sharp edge. However, to the horror of the thugs, no blood stained the blade, and Mr. Bella's expression remained unchanged. With an almost casual motion, Mr. Bella slapped the thug, sending him flying across the store. The others stared in disbelief at the frail figure that had effortlessly subdued their comrades. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as the old man, seemingly impervious to harm, stood as a harbinger of the darkness. The dimly lit store echoed with the groans of the injured thug on the floor, his comrades struggling to comprehend the supernatural strength displayed by the seemingly frail Mr. Bella. The air crackled with tension as another thug cautiously approached, a glimmer of fear in his eyes. "Careful, old man, you don't know who you're dealing with," the thug warned, a hint of uncertainty tainting his bravado. Mr. Bella, however, remained calm, his pale eyes gleaming with an otherworldly knowledge. "The pleasure is all yours," Mr. Bella replied with a cryptic smile. The thug launched a kick at him, a desperate attempt to assert dominance. To their collective astonishment, the kick connected, but the man crumpled on the floor in agony, his shin fractured, the impact akin to kicking a concrete post. The others, realizing the futility of their bravado, hastily dragged their injured comrade out of the store, shooting defiant threats over their shoulders. "We'll be back for you, old man. You don't know who we are." As the thugs retreated into the night, the storekeeper approached Mr. Bella cautiously. "Are you okay, Mr. Bella? You'd better be careful. People like that lose face with this type of thing. Next thing you know, there's more of them on your doorstep." "In that case, I may not need my regular supply of raw meat for a few weeks, maybe months," Mr. Bella remarked, his tone carrying a dark humor. The storekeeper couldn't help but shudder at the implication of Mr. Bella's words, a realization dawning that the old man's peculiar habits might be more than just eccentricities. In the shadows of time, Mr. Bella's origins reach back to the fateful year of 1066. The air was thick with an acrid scent of battle as he crossed the channel from France to England. Stepping into his first confrontation, clash of swords, the screams of the wounded, and the stench of impending death surrounded him. It was in the midst of this chaos that Mr. Bella met his first adversary. A morning star swung with lethal intent. The brutal blow struck him on the head, leaving him bleeding and on the brink of death. As life ebbed away, someone or something intervened, dragging him from the battlefield's edge. Barely clinging to consciousness, Mr. Bella felt the chilling touch of fangs on his neck. A mysterious figure, drawn by the scent of his fresh blood, began to feast upon him. In the throes of near death, a spear pierced through the chest of the blood drinker, severing the unholy connection. Mr. Bella's wounds miraculously healed in the following days, but the encounter left an indelible mark on his existence. From that moment onward, Mr. Bella discovered an aversion to bright sunlight and an unquenchable thirst for fresh blood. He became a timeless warrior, partaking in battles and wars throughout the centuries, from medieval conflicts to the blood-soaked beaches of Normandy during World War II. On D-Day, he stormed the shores alongside mortal soldiers, enduring bullet hits that would have felled any ordinary man. Yet Mr. Bella persisted, surviving where others fell. The horrors of war took their toll, and after witnessing the brutality of humanity for centuries, he yearned for solitude. Post-World War II, Mr. Bella retreated from the chaos of the world, seeking refuge in the decaying home on the Norfolk estate. A recluse, he sustained himself by feeding on the fresh meat procured from the local store. The town remained blissfully unaware of the ancient entity dwelling within their midst, a survivor of centuries, haunted by the echoes of battle and the weight of immortality. In the dimly lit room of his Norfolk estate, Mr. Bella revelled in the haunting strains of a violin concerto, losing himself in the melancholy beauty of the music. The soft glow of the lamplight illuminated his aged face as he sat in a worn leather chair, a timeless figure shrouded in the shadows. As the melodic notes wrapped around him, an unwelcome disturbance resonated through the quietness. The distant rumble of approaching cars along the gravel driveway shattered the serenity, drawing Mr. Bella's attention away from the captivating concerto. A subtle smile curled on his lips as he licked them in anticipation. Rising from his chair, he moved with a quiet purpose towards the front door. 2 black Range Rovers rolled to a stop, and 8 imposing figures emerged, their faces etched with malice. The thug from the store, defiant and arrogant, stood at the forefront. "I told you we'd be back, old man," he sneered. Mr. Bella's smile persisted. "I'll give you fair warning. None of you will leave this place unless you leave right now." "He's the one," the thug bellowed, pointing an accusing finger. The burly men, armed with bats, knives and chains, advanced menacingly. Mr. Bella's expression remained unchanged. With a sudden, fluid motion that defied the laws of physics, Mr. Bella moved faster than the human eye could perceive. His body seemed to transform into a mist, seamlessly traversing the space between one thug and another. One by one, they crumpled to the ground, incapacitated, leaving only the original man standing. "For you, this will be long and painful," Mr. Bella whispered, his voice carrying a chilling calmness. "I loathe violence, and you have made me have to kill again. For that, you will suffer." As Mr. Bella approached the lone thug, a palpable terror gripped the man. The realization dawned that they had underestimated the enigmatic recluse dwelling in the decaying estate. The night unfolded with an eerie dance of shadows and violence as Mr. Bella, the ancient vampire, prepared to serve a dish of punishment befitting the trespassers who dared disturb his solitude. Over a century had passed since Mr. Bella last tasted the lifeblood of a human, but tonight the ancient vampire indulged in a feast that would rejuvenate his existence. Bodies lay strewn before him, silent witnesses to the macabre banquet. As he drained each life, a A profound change rippled through him. Youth surged in his veins, transforming his aged frame into a visage of vitality. Hair, once white and thin, sprouted anew and turned raven black. The frailty that had characterized his form was replaced by sinewy muscles, and Mr. Bella, now revitalized, exhaled a satisfied breath. "Here we go again," he muttered to himself. After the gruesome feast, Mr. Bella disposed of the lifeless bodies with an almost casual detachment. He pushed one of the Range Rovers into the nearby lake, the water swallowing the vehicle in a silent gulp. Climbing into the other car, a wicked smile played on his rejuvenated features. "Let's go for a little ride." Following the coordinates on the car's SAT navigation system, Mr. Bella drove to a lock-up in West London. Peering through the window, he observed a gathering inside, a motley group of thugs surrounded by burly men, older individuals and a woman, all engaged in tense discussions. Pushing the door open, Mr. Bella walked in, his youthful face unrecognizable to the three thugs from the store. A man barked, "Who the hell are you?" "Let's just say I'm not here for small talk," Mr. Bella replied, the room falling into an uneasy hush. In an instant, his body moved like mist, weaving between the individuals present. One by one they crumpled to the floor until only the two older men and the woman remained. "I take it you are the brains behind these insects," Mr. Bella remarked, his gaze penetrating. "I'll give you a choice. Die now, or forget everything of these past days. Either one means nothing to me, so choose wisely." The two old men exchanged glances, defiance flickering in their eyes. "You son of a..." Before they could finish their sentence, Mr. Bella silenced them with a swift movement. A mist enveloped them, and they fell. "Oh well," Mr. Bella muttered, the air heavy with the echoes of his ancient existence. The room bore witness to the consequences of crossing paths with a creature that spanned centuries, a remorseless force of nature that had just awakened from a long slumber. Months had passed since the night of reckoning in West London, and Mr. Bella found himself back at home in Norfolk. Seated in the quiet solitude of his dimly lit room, he immersed himself in the beautiful melodies of the radio as the haunting tunes enveloped him. He rose from his chair only to notice the telltale signs of aging once more. His once muscular frame had withered, and his hair, once vibrant and black, now clung to his scalp in thin grey strands. A wistful smile tugged at the corners of Mr. Bella's lips. "Must be getting hungry," he muttered to himself, acknowledging the cyclical nature of his existence. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mr. Bella's presence chimed through the door of the local shop. The storekeeper, familiar with the enigmatic figure, looked up with a warm smile. "Can I resume my order, please?" Mr. Bella inquired. "Ah, Mr. Bella, good to see you, of course," the storekeeper responded, retrieving the usual supplies. The routine resumed, the exchange of pleasantries, the gathering of fresh meat, and the unspoken understanding that lingered between them. As Mr. Bella stepped back into the night, the air thick with the promise of darkness, he embraced the eternal cycle that defined his existence. The dance between life and death, youth and age, played out in the shadows. The ancient vampire, with the weight of centuries on his shoulders, disappeared into the night, leaving the quaint town of Norfolk to continue its slumber, blissfully unaware of the enigmatic force that traversed its quiet streets. And so the tale of Mr. Bella, the old vampire, unfolded like the pages of an ancient manuscript, a story woven with threads of darkness, immortality, and the ceaseless rhythm of a life that spanned across time itself. And if you're still looking to fulfill your thirst for more horror, don't forget to check out this next video, unless of course you are frozen with fear already.